What's been your experience with the book of Revelation? Abe?
When I was little, I don't know if you guys heard of this. It's called Tribulation Trails. You guys been to that?
Yes.
No. We went with this church, and you know how you have like haunted houses and tours or something like that
That's
in
why
October.
I haven't been, right?
Yeah,
It's haunted.
no, yeah.
I ain't going, right?
So it's
This week, the message was very challenging for me. It made me like sit back a couple of different times and sort of a ouch moment. So I just kind of want to hear a little bit from you guys on what your experiences was. The first thing I want to ask, just to jump right in, is Pastor Johnson here at Norcross said this: "Do we love other Christians enough to be inconvenienced by them?" And I was like, "Oh." And I know the right response, right? Is that of course, but I just wanted to hear from you guys. Like, did that hit you the way that it hit me? Was that tough for you to hear?
Well, I'll start. I mean, even this past week, I had a situation where a fellow church member was going through some very difficult times, and we were trying to figure out, well, when's the right time, in my schedule to go, and make it happen, right? I'm trying to figure out, well, let's see, they live on this side of town, so with traffic, and it's on a Friday, and then it was like, they need help, right? So I think I made the right call, but I think oftentimes, we do plot and scheme, try to figure out, hey, when is it convenient for me? And so I certainly fall guilty of it, but this past week was just like, oh yeah, I was in that mindset this week,
That's
right?
good.
So
That's good. Abe, how about you?
Yeah, I think the inconvenience part is it kind of hit me listening to it with small groups, especially.
Yeah.
Talking about how we're all launching small groups, and like my team is really working with the small group. I'm like, dang, like I'm not leading one. I've been a part of small group, and it's been great. And like our small group has a lot of amazing leaders, but the church needs small groups, and I'm like, oh, duh, but I don't have time. Like my life is so busy. I'm like, okay, make time. Like, what does it look like for my wife and I to sit down and like really plan it out and like, hey, like this is what God is calling our church to do. He's calling us to do this. What does it look like for us to inconvenience ourselves and make time to actually create a small group?
That's so good, man. That's so good. Paula, how about you?
I think for me it was definitely convicting, because I think when I go through tough things, I expect people, not expect, but I hope that they come and help.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, why don't I have that same mentality with others, And it's like, even whenever, I lost my grandmother, and like having my community there was like a huge deal. And it's like, have I done that for people?
Wow.
Especially when it's uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
when it's like either somebody grieving, or it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to stay home, like, or go to the gym, or not have to inconvenience myself to do something that I don't want to do. Yeah. So that was very convicting to hear.
So we're all on the same page. That's good.
Yeah.
Glad to know that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have started the section of Revelation where we're talking about the 7 churches. And so for the next 7 weeks, we'll be going through listening to what God has to say for those churches, applying that to our lives. And the first one, Ephesians, I mean, this, he sets up this example of all these things that the church is doing well, right? You've done this, and you're good with people and all these things, but you've forgotten to love me and to love other people. So I just want to ask you guys, as we work in ministry. So obviously there's a part of ministry that was enticing to you, that was inviting to you. When the church is at its best, when we're showing the light of God like we're supposed to, what is it about the church that is inviting the most to you guys? When we're at our best,
Yeah.
what do we look like?
I think it's relationships. People, I think the one thing that drew my wife and I to victory in itself, for example, was when we walked in here, we felt seen.
Wow.
Right? We walked in, people looked at us, noticed us. Johnson looked at us, noticed us. Like I messaged him on Instagram like, yo, so great. We weren't married at the time. My fiance and I just came to Victory. Like, we're so excited to be here. And he took time to reply to me.
Wow.
And you don't see that too often in churches of this size, and like we just felt seen, and it was so easy to get connected to this church. And I think when the church is at its best, like you're just pouring out on people, and people are seen and they're loved, and then they experience the love of Christ. And that's what I love about our church is I feel like we do that really well here.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Well, how about you?
You know, I think when I think about what attracted me to Victory, I think about one of our key pillars, which is, reconciling cultures, right? And in a world where, there's still some cultural tension that still exists, to see a church that I think, to your point, helps to bridge that, right? And I would say probably one of the favorite times that I have in the course of a week is if I'm standing in the lobby and watching all these different nationalities coming through the lobby, right? And people who are, mixed race couples and just, it's just like it's a tapestry. It's a cultural tapestry, right? And there are times I'm sitting there, I'm going, wow, I can't imagine when I was growing up in my one race Black Baptist church in South Carolina, when
Which I've been to.
Yeah, that's right. You were there. That's right. You were there. You know what I'm talking about. And so to where I am now, right? And just, again, seeing this diversity and seeing the love. And let's face it, it's not easy being in a church of so many cultures because we have to be so considerate, of different cultural perspectives. And so, I think how we honestly navigate those things is a hallmark of our church, I think. And we don't, I guess we're an equal opportunity offender, as we always say, right? So we step on everybody's toes.
Absolutely.
But we know that the underlying value beneath all of that is love. And so that's what I appreciate about what we do here at Victory. So, yeah.
Well said, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I think one, it's like, I don't know why I kept on thinking of like healing happens.
Yeah.
And I think because of, my personal life where it's like, going through tough things and I can't find that in the world, like I can't find healing in, whatever the world offers. And then like being able to be in a church where, it does, and it's cool because a lot of my community comes from different churches. So like, it's just cool to see that, that there is healing in church, and like, and even feeling seen and like cared for and loved. And it doesn't even matter if it's your first time or like 70th time, it's like we went to a church in Puerto Rico and nobody knew us, but everybody came and approached us and welcomed us. And it's like, man, this is what church should feel like, and even too, like when we were there, they came and prayed for us. We didn't even go to the altar, and they just like, we just need to pray for for them. And it was just really cool to like experience that, especially being working in the church.
Yeah.
And so, at least for me, that's what it looks like.
That's good, though. So just kind of camp there for a second. Both of you guys essentially are saying like time, like making time for people. One of the things that in the message, it says that the church doesn't exist to balance the budget, right? We exist to show the love of Jesus. I know working in ministry, sometimes it's tough for me. I get caught up in doing the work maybe and not slowing down as enough. Have you guys experienced that working in ministry? Like putting the work of the ministry ahead of the things that maybe we should be doing?
Wow.
Yes.
You go. Yeah, that's right. You do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you just stay so focused and like, I got to get all this work done, and then you forget why you're doing it for, like we're not doing it, to get an A+ on my job. It's more of like, I'm doing this for people, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think, 100%. I get in that mentality of like, no, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
But then like when my volunteers, like need time, I'm like, no, I got to get my work done. And then it's like, but they need time, so yeah.
That's good. Thanks for being honest.
Yeah.
How about you, Olin?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, we all have responsibilities, right? And one of the reasons that we're here is to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry, right? And so we're focused on equipping, right? And even, I don't want to jump ahead of you, Todd. I'm not sure where you're going, but when Johnson talked about, hey, so what are the 3 areas of love where you think you might not be doing well? And for me, my relationship with Jesus, that's not the biggest concern. My relationship with others, that wasn't the biggest concern. But when he talked about the city, I'm like, oh snap, right? You know, it's like you're so busy trying to do things that like, wow, where's my heart for the city? Now I have a heart for my community, if you will, but we are part of an amazing city that God wants to do something in, right? And so for me, the convicting part was, wow, don't feel like I really have a heart for the city like I should, you know? So that was what was kind of challenging for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think working in ministry, it's really easy to just get wrapped up in everything, right? And I was really convicted just being reminded of, hey, you lost your first love. Like you're doing all these things well. You're working unto God. You're serving. You know, you're working in ministry. You're doing it well, but you lost your first love. And I remember time and time, like growing up, I would read that about Israel, like, hey, you've forgotten me, you've forgotten your first love. I'm like, God, like, I don't ever want to be like the Israelites, like, please, like, and you'd read their stories, like, how could you forget God?
Right.
Like, he's brought you through all of this, and you're forgetting God. And then we do the same thing. I do the same thing, and it just there's a song I forgot who, I think Jen Johnson sings this, but the song basically it's a song to the Lord, and it goes like, Lord, what can I do for you? I'll write a song for you. Like, tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. Essentially, and God's like, you don't have to do anything, just simply be with me. And I was just reminded of that just listening to the sermon. And God's just like, hey, like I don't want your works. I don't want you to do all these I don't need you to change the world. I just want your time and your presence. And it's a good reminder to like come back. And what did it look like to fall in love with Jesus in the first place, right? And I think it's hard for us. I think it's harder for people in ministry because you're like trying to do everything,
Yeah.
but then forget the one thing that like really led you to this. And that's how I think some people get burnt out in ministry sometimes, because they forget their first love. And we always have to remind ourselves and stay grounded in that truth and love.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll get lost in it.
Yeah, there's a moment in the message where, Pastor Johnson is talking about when you leave here, do you worship? Not sing, not perform music, but do you worship? And over the last year or so, I've been on this journey with the Lord that's been very, very fruitful, very painful at times. But I went on a sabbatical about a year ago, and one of the first things I had to reconnect with on that was worship. And I'm a worship guy. I mean, that's a part of who I am, right? But I realized that I had fallen into this sort of trap of anytime I was worshiping, it was to prepare for worship. So yeah, I mean, I'm singing the worship song, but it was more so to make sure vocally I was ready, or I remembered, when the bridge hit or something like that. And I remember just sitting for the first time and just I'm just gonna worship. I'm not gonna play the music. I'm not preparing for anything. And slowly but surely over the course of that sabbatical, my relationship with the Lord and my vocation, I was pulled away from each other. So that now, I mean, thank God, over the last year, I've been able to separate what I do for work and my pursuit of the Lord. And it's been, again, very challenging, but very healing and very good for my heart.
Yeah.
Is to remember, separate from what I do as work, I have a pursuit of the Lord that, yes, worship should be a part of that. Reading the word should be part of that.
Right.
Praying should be part of that. Talking to people should be part of that. But like you said, sometimes we get so caught up in the doing that we forget the pursuit of that. So that's one thing that just God reminded me of so clearly in this message. And I had to like take a moment for myself and just like reconnect. God, you're so good, Yeah. So getting to the heart thing, right? Like he ends the message, and the charge to the church in Ephesus is we forgot how to love him, forgot how to love one another, forgot how to love our city. And then I hated that he did this, but he had a moment where he's like, all right, close your eyes and rank where you're at on those. And I was like, I knew it was going to be bad, but I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
As I was honest, how bad it was. I just want to ask you guys, like, moment of honesty, where have you seen kind of that love dip with those three things?
I told you mine already. I didn't confess, right? So, all right.
You did get
y'all
ahead.
Go, y'all go. Yeah, I did get ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll go. Yeah, I think for me, I'm honestly, with what I was sharing about like getting caught up and everything, I think I've been loving others well. I've been loving my city well, but I think I lost that zeal for God, and that heart for the Lord. Like I love Him, but is my life and the time that I occupy myself with, does it really reflect? Hey, do I love God? Right. And so for me, I think it's just yeah, I think I lost my first love again. And just now, what does it look like for me to rekindle that love for Christ like I once had? So,
Thanks for sharing that, man. That's
Yeah.
I know that wasn't easy to share, but I appreciate that.
of course.
Yeah. Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I need to work on all of them,
Wow.
and low key, it's embarrassing as a Christian because I'm like, isn't that what we're supposed to be here?
Yeah.
But I think, sometimes I think one thing that stood out to me was whenever he said, if we can love God in like the peaceful moments and like the easy moments, then what makes us think that we'll love him in the hard moments?
Right.
And I think, with stuff that's happened in my life, that kind of shook that, where it's like, oh my God, do I really love God? Right? Do I only love him because of what he does for me?
Yeah.
Or because of who he is? And so I think I say that because I feel like I've only loved him when it's been good and not when it's been hard. And so I think going back to like my first love of like, first of all, you didn't do anything other than save me. I didn't have to do like any work, and that should be enough to love you always, and not like, well, you didn't heal this person or you didn't like give me this promotion. And so I think that's the thing that's like in my brain of like, God, even when it's hard, I'm going to love you. And like when things don't go my way, I'm going to love you. Because if you get stuck in that mentality of like, only when it's great, then I feel like that's how you could easily like, at least for me, fall out of love with him. And so yeah, I think this was a very great message to just kind of bring me back to like my first love of like, God, you are enough, and like you don't have to do anything for me to love you. It's just for who you are and what your word says about you. So
That's powerful, Paul. Thank you for sharing that. For real. I appreciate you guys, like I said, being honest and sharing. And I know it's when we hear messages like that, it's tough. It's tough to respond to, but it sounds like the way he was speaking to me, the same way he was speaking to you guys, and responding the right way, remembering, right? So thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it.